And my name is Kausar Sultana. And we are the Revive Collective.
We are here to start a new series talking about some difficult emotions with all of you. And today's first episode, we begin about grief on losing someone to death. How do you cope with it? What are the signs to look out for if you are being healed or not being healed? And also, we are going to give you some tips and some pointers on how you can move forward in life, because losing a loved one to death can actually stop you in your tracks and actually make you stagnate in life. And that's what we want to help you out with. Yes, Kausar?
Yes, absolutely, Tashi. So, grieving is an extremely important process. A lot of us, when we lose a dear one, a loved one, we develop our own coping mechanisms, okay? Because the moment demands it, or the environment demands it, or it is just our internal way of literally dealing with the loss, the emptiness that is felt inside, correct?
Yeah.
You have experienced it, I have experienced it, I'm sure a lot of you have. If some of you have not, God bless everybody in your family. However, this is a fact of life. Somewhere, sometime, everyone has to go. And therefore, both Tashi and I thought that we should start with, dealing with difficult emotions. And we chose grief because even though it's been years since I lost my father, I'm still, feeling the loss. And our experience of how grief has helped us, be better in our loss, we thought, why don't we share it with all of you? So Tashi, tell me, why don't we start with our own, losses? You've lost your father and your father-in-law.
Yeah.
How was that for you?
I think it was rather difficult because I unfortunately lost both my father-in-law and then my father within a span of 4 months, Kausar. And they both were unwell before they passed on. And I was close to both of them, very, very close to both of them. So I think it was like a huge emotional churning that took place. And before I could even kind of come to terms with my father-in-law's death, I had to start looking after my unwell father, and then we lost him as well, right? So the unhappiness, I didn't get time to kind of understand the emotions I was going through when my father-in-law died.
Correct.
And before I knew it, it was like a double whammy. And that was heartbreaking because there was no time to grieve, per se, right? So I kept myself focused after my father-in-law's death. Well, he was sick. So first it was looking after him, and then looking after my father, and then losing him too. So the grieving time really didn't happen. And I think that was quite later in life that I realized. Now they both have gone 9 years already. But that's the time I realized that, oh my God, I haven't grieved. I was so busy doing so many other things that till today, I do grieve. I do grieve, and I do cry, and I do let go of my pain. And I think it is so important because that's what keeps me, sane. That's what keeps me balanced. Because life has to move on. Life doesn't stop. Your responsibilities for yourself to start with, and then your responsibilities towards your loved ones, your work, your family, your friends, your entire life is all, nothing is going to go away, right? You have to keep doing what you need to keep doing. And if I just hold my head in one corner and say, oh my God, this is the end of my world, obviously that's not going to help.
But it does happen. It does feel at that time that this is the end of the world. How am I going to move on? And that is such a big, it's like the weight of not knowing how we're going to move forward is so heavy, and that's when the survival instinct hits in. And it's very, very common. We may not even realize that we go numb. One of the biggest, most common ones is feeling a sense of numbness, not wanting to accept what has happened. There is a sense of denial, you know, and these are different stages. It's not in sequence. It's not in, you know, there's no time frame for it, but we experience these different kinds of emotions. There's a denial. And denial is, you know, it's very interesting. Denial is, there's like a two-sided, I would say, aspect to it. One is not being able to accept that the person is no longer physically in our space. The other one is denial of my own feelings. It's so difficult to feel the pain, to feel the loss, that I am telling myself, I'm okay. It's all right. I'm able to deal with it.
And while we are saying that we are okay to deal with it, we make it, you know, very difficult, I think, for ourselves, because we are blocking our own tears also. Because we want to behave stronger and more, you know, more like Superman or Superwoman by not showing our tears to anyone. We don't want to cry. We don't want to cry because we don't want to seem weak in front of our family or our children or the rest of the, you know, people, and everybody is saying that, oh my God, you know, you need to cry. You must have experienced it yourself. And maybe you've seen people do it as well. That, you know, when people actually have to be told that, why don't you cry? Why don't you let out the grief? And people say, no, I cannot cry. So one is like what Kausar said earlier about feeling numb.
Yeah.
You are so numbed out, you're so spaced out of that entire thing. It feels like, you know, it happened in another time zone. You were not there when it happened. It feels very, very weird, right? And then that numbness leads to you not being able to cry because you have to be strong for everyone else around you. And if I cry, then I become weak. And I remember in my time, in both those cases that I'm talking about, I cried. And I cried a lot because I knew that if I don't shed my tears, then it is going to be holding inside me like a big lump of pain for the rest of my life. And so it is very important to cry. It is very important to cry. And the other thing that people do, no course, what we have seen with our clients as well.
Yeah.
Of course, we cannot reveal names of these people, but we've actually had someone saying to us that it was a kind of relief for some people. It was a relief that that person passed on because of the kind of relationship they shared. Those two people in that relationship shared an unhealthy, unhappy relationship where there was a lot of trauma, a lot of anger, a lot of anxiety being caused between the two of them. And when that one person who was the main lead in this whole drama, when that person passed away, the other person in the relationship actually told us that I felt relief because now I did not need to cope
With
or
that-
with that
with that
anger,
behavior.
with that behavior. And that person actually said that, you know, I used to feel guilty, you know, about even feeling that relief. Actually.
You're so right, you know, and this person was also experiencing like a double whammy. There is a sense of relief that could not be ignored, and there is a guilt for feeling the relief.
Yeah.
And dealing with the loss of the person. So can you imagine? There were so many things that were going
On at one time.
Yeah.
So what we would, you know, kind of suggest to you that when you are going through a period of grief because of the death of a loved one, then one way to look at it is that yes, I need to cry. I don't have to pretend to be brave if I am not feeling brave. That is very important. And please, it is so essential to come to terms with all your feelings. So, not only the grief part of it, but also this living in denial that, no, I'm a strong person. You know, I'll cope with it. Don't try and be brave if you are not feeling brave. You are not at a party trying to create impressions as the best dressed person, right? This is something very serious you're going through. So if you come to terms with your pain, shed your tears, shed your anger, even talk about it, it is going to help you. Because in the longer run, the longer you hold on to this, the bigger the internal issue and pain for you will become, right?
Yes, I mean the main reason for highlighting the importance of grieving a loss is if you're not able to reach the bottom, and really touch there the wound and really heal that, it stays there. As you move on in life, it stays there. And it's a wound that you tend to carry on. It's different to continue to live and carry the void of the person. And it's very different to live and continue carrying the wound. That wound will keep coming up as triggers somewhere or the other.
The wound will keep festering.
Yes, if
And
it's
that a festering wound is terrible. It is terrible. It will keep becoming like an abscess
Yeah.
inside you. And you are going to actually throw that out in different situations because you are so angry and you are so hurt and you are so lonely. And then you are trying to cope with the day to day life without that one important person who was with you. It can become very challenging. So, the faster and the sooner you come to terms with the fact that it is okay to break down. We are not suggesting that you have to get over your grief like that. It will not happen. So also believe and know that grief takes time to heal, and give yourself that time. Don't be in a rush that, oh my God, I need to get back to life. Now my children are growing up and this is happening. Yes, all those responsibilities are there. But at the same time, you don't have to rush through the process. Take your time so you heal completely. Like after a flu or a viral COVID being all over the place, have you noticed, if you have experienced COVID, after the symptoms have gone and your reports come negative and all of that, you will still feel weak all the time. Your body needs time to heal completely from within, build up the strength again to start living and eating normally and behaving normally and start having a life for yourself. Same thing with grief. It is like an illness that drains you out completely. Allow that to happen.
Yeah, it's going back to the point I made earlier also. The reason why we're so, the emphasis on healing is important is because the void, okay, we don't realize that the emptiness, we end up filling it with different kinds of things. We could pick on an addiction. We may not realize that. We could get into binge eating. We may want to become more connected or become more dependent or make another person dependent on us to fill that void. It starts impacting different kinds of relationships. For me, I know what I did when I lost my father. There is an uncle from my in-laws side. I realized I had begun latching onto him as a father figure, okay? And he responded, he was there for me. But I observed that if I, was not able to be in touch with this uncle regularly, I was feeling that void. And I caught that for myself, because then I realized that I was becoming dependent on the uncle, and that wouldn't be healthy for our relationship.
Whatever equation
Right?
you
It
already
was.
had.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? So yeah, I mean, we hope that we are able to convey the message that we are here for you if you require any more assistance. The details of how you can get in touch with us is going to be mentioned in the caption below this video. We wish you well and take care of yourself.
God bless you. Keep shining.